this fortress, half a mile long, 220 feet at the widest point, just 220 feet. It had a casemate wall all the way around the edge of it. As you see here, this depicted. A casemate wall are two parallel walls built together along the edge of whatever they're protecting. And then it had, at intervals, it had partitions to divide those off that was often used for storage or used for inhabitation of soldiers and such. Along this outside perimeter of this casemate wall were 38 towers. 38 towers, 75 feet high. The wall itself was 18 feet high. And so you can imagine the structure itself, naturally, is a formidable structure for defense. But with what Herod put here to defend it, it was even more so. It had, in its installations, baths where people could bathe. It had water storage that kept up to as much as 700,000 cubic feet of water. You've got a question. How did they ever get it up here? We'll answer that in a few minutes, okay? They also had storage. Close to this end, you can see the storage rooms, elongated. Can you see them? There was that's it, right there. There was a bathhouse right next to that, more of the square structures. Right there. Now, come up your way a little bit. Right that way. That's it. That's the bathhouse. We'll go through that. You also have a three-tiered palace on the north that was the one that Herod used, okay? And it was on the north because there was a prevailing breeze. So even in the heat, in the afternoon, that breeze would come on that north side, and Herod had all the comforts of this. These are the Judean highlands. Off in the distance in this direction, approximately 10 miles or so, is one of the Israelite fortresses called Arad.
Is this north?
That's west. Okay, and Arad is, when we went to the museum, we said this is the Holy of Holies. Remember that? That Holy of Holies was found at Arad, just about 10 or 15 miles to the west of us here. October 1841, Morris and Hyde arrived at Joppa. You know where that is? They stayed there for a day or so. On the 21st of October 1841, Morris and Hyde arrived in Jerusalem, the Catholic gardens overlooking the city. The Savior stopped, tells us, and that's the verse, starts with, and when he was come near, he beheld the city, just like you beheld the city. And I heard some of your comments when you came up. Wow, what a view. And you can't see this city from almost any vantage point without rejoicing over the privilege of seeing such a view. As we said the other day, when we reviewed the history of this place, there is no place in the world where you can stand and look over a city and see more history that carries such an impact on the lives of all the people who lived in this world. When he was come near, he beheld the city and wept over it, saying, Thou hadst known, even thou, at least in this thy day, the things which belong unto thy peace. That's an interesting statement, because at this point, the Jews were enjoying relative peace, even though they were under the thumb of the Romans. They had rights and privileges, and they could practice their religion as they pleased, and they were not molested unless they got out of line from the Roman law, which was fairly liberal. And there was a time of peace here. But in the midst of that peace stood among them the greatest individual ever born to this world. So he says, let me read that phrase again, because it's stunning what he's saying. If thou hadst known, even thou, at least in this thy day, the things which belong unto thy peace, but now they are hid from thine eyes. Your eyes are covered with scales of darkness because of your choices, your disobedience. For the day shall come upon thee, that thine enemies shall cast a trench about thee, and compass thee round, and keep thee in on every side, and shall lay thee even with the ground, and thy children within thee. They shall not leave in thee one stone upon another, because thou knewest not the time of thy visitation. That's sobering. As he stood somewhere along the western face overlooking his city, he was prophesying the coming destruction and suffering of the people who inhabited this place. Now just pan another little bit and you see a kind of a white limestone dome.
Yeah.
In that general area was the Antonia Fortress. That four-towered building that were held by the Romans, and it's where Pontius Pilate probably judged the Savior. There's nothing left of the Antonia Fortress today. It was totally destroyed by the Romans when they destroyed the city and the temple. Okay, so you're at 4. When Pontius Pilate found out that Jesus was of Galilee, knowing that Herod Antipas was in the city for the Passover, probably at his father's palace on the west side of the city, he sent Jesus over to be judged by Pontius Pilate here at Antonia Fortress. Pontius Pilate sent him from Antonia Fortress over on this side of the city over to number 5 at Herod's palace, where no doubt Herod Antipas would have been staying in his father's palace while being here in the city. So Jesus is marched back over now after the agony and the ordeal of Gethsemane. Jesus is arrested, spends the rest of the night in Caiaphas' palace. Early in the morning he's taken to Antonia Fortress. Later on that early morning he's marched over to the other side of the city to meet with Herod Antipas. We are said that Jesus spoke not one word when he was in the presence of Herod Antipas.
So does number 5 kind of be in the location where there's a Jaffa Gate is?
Exactly in that location. You see the 3 towers on the right-hand side in the map. That's the bulwarks in the wall right there by Jaffa Gate. So the striated area there is where Herod's palace was.
Hi, my name is Chris Crone, and I've just finished spending the last 10 days in Jerusalem. And as you can see, we're in an airport here. My wife and I we're actually heading off to Egypt, so the tour for us gets to continue. A lot of people got to go home at this point. And I just want to tell you, this has been the most fantastic experience of my life. Not only did we get to see places that for me are sacred, very special, but we also had an amazing tour director. Working with LDS Travel Studies and working with Judd was a tremendous opportunity. His knowledge of the land, of the history, and the personal spirit that he brings into it, I can't imagine this being a better trip. Now, this is my first visit to the Holy Land. I actually had the opportunity to visit other people that have been to the Holy Land multiple times, and many of them said that this trip in particular was better than any tour group they had ever taken before. And so my wife and I, we personally feel very fortunate that we had an opportunity to walk in these places and to be here. One of the things that I also really liked about LDS Travel Studies is they gave us a really packed itinerary. I'm going to tell you, it's not for the faint of heart. This was not a vacation. This was an opportunity to learn and grow, and I myself was personally pushed in so many wonderful ways. And it really made this just a fantastic experience, from the Dead Sea, Sea of Galilee, Capernaum, Jerusalem for several days. This is an experience that I will carry with me throughout my entire life. Thank you.